The cries of the Sven went about unheard by the Pharaoh's army. Echoes of their burning brought an end to a once silent night as the city crumbled around them. Inside the ministry, Scarge looked behind him as the rat men ran throughout the halls of their metropolis, attempting to flee the Egyptian onslaught. His adjutant, alongside 6 others, pushed their way through the departing.
"Ensure none of ours harm civilians,"
Scarge commanded.
"The men adhere to your orders, my liege, but the same cannot be said for the Blackguard." "Where is the Blackguard lie?"
Hawk motioned towards a short open space embedded in stone wall. Scarge peered through. Warriors in black armor marched through a scorching segment of wooden homes, making their way through the flames to the Capitol building.
"There,"
Scarge pointed.
"Just behind the south gate. We must move quickly to secure the main structure before the Blackguard make their way inside. Otherwise, countless lives of innocents will be lost." "What remains of the Sven army?"
The few that survived the onslaught have been vanquished by the Blackguard, and at least thrice the numbers of citizens have been killed. As you can see, the Blackguard have begun to tear down the city. Scarge was silent. "Once they have started, my champion." Scarge nodded, taking a moment to digest the situation. He redirected his approach.
"Any attempt to save the capital will now be done in vain. We must direct any survivors through the rear of the city at once. Gather 2 of your best men and lead as many to safety as possible."
"Yes, at once." Hawk turned, nodding at one of the men who followed as he moved quickly down the hall.
"My lord."
Scarge glanced at an Egyptian warrior as large as himself, one of few reds among the Egyptian population. His thick orange beard was braided beneath his chin.
"If you wish to secure the ministers, now is the time. If they have not already fled, the Commandant will kill them."
Scarge acknowledged Hakenbull and turned to lead them down the corridor as the soldiers continued to navigate towards the central chamber. They arrived at the main lobby, the offices of the ministers down the left hall. The band came to an abrupt halt as heavy footsteps followed the unmistakable sound of ghastly breathing. Scarge stiffened his posture and saluted, the soldiers behind him doing the same. The dark outline of an elongated nose from a wolf-like head protruded through the darkness and past the men. The Commandant headed straight for the offices, no lack of rhythm in his precise march toward the door. Scarge looked back at his warriors, a look of certain regret in his eyes. They stood silent and still, free from the intervention as Blackguard soldiers moved to assemble a surrounding perimeter. The door slammed open and the Commandant marched in. A pair of Sven guards stood at the ready, preparing to strike. The Commandant turned to look at them. The visors, false eyelids over the eyes of his mask lifted, and 2 bright green lights flared down upon them. The Sven dropped their weapons and scattered back as Tenhut shifted his focus to the 3 rat men before him. He towered over them, studying their cowering frames. He paced slowly, the rat men awaiting their reckoning.
"I would like to believe that I have your attention."
He eyed them. The cold hiss of his electronic voice reverberated through the central chambers of the Capitol.
"The Pharaoh has ordered the complete destruction of Katashia. For your negligence, to our cause."
The elder of the trio cleared his throat and spoke.
"The Pharaoh has blinded you to his will for supremacy."
The Commandant swung an arm into the air, pointing at the Sven in the middle.
"You would conceive better to make assumptions based on your current situation."
The leaders were silent. Tenhut softened his persona and paced again.
"I can ensure Katashia will remain free of total obliteration if you should bring forth knowledge on the wholesome whereabouts of Jared."
"The Council has no knowledge on the whereabouts of the lost."
Do not consider me crude. Geode sought asylum and relations with the Sven of Cappadocia shortly after his escape from Agrian courts. Your denial will serve you no longer.
The ministers exchanged glances.
Thoughts concerning deception will not get you far.
Tenhut took a step forward.
Do not consider them.
The Old One spoke again.
I'm afraid our seers long fled have seen the root of your cause. We cannot convey any information that may involve contact with Giles.
Then your people act contrary to the stability and special interests of the Egyptian dynasty. Proper action must be taken.
Tenhut raised a hand, and 5 guards entered the room. The Commandant looked down at his fin. His hands now rested behind his back. A thin ray of light reflected from his dark mask, an even collage of gray and black.
I almost admire the determination you continue to uphold. I will find Giles before the next court cycle. My will has declared this. It has become law.
A solemn look grew within the eyes of the councilman. He took a step back and eyed a guard. Tenhut nodded, and the soldier moved forward, grabbing the Sven in the middle. 2 others walked around the Commandant, seizing the last of the ministry.
I trust there is some sense of honor you will achieve from this.
Tenhut suggested, as the black guards drew their swords. He watched the condemned for a moment longer before turning around and starting toward the exit.
A frivolous dedication to the egoic mind.
The Commandant declared, marching out of the capital. The door to the inner chamber closed behind him, as echoes of the dying cried into the night.